Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Summer 2018 ECES Session C Pre-Departure webinar. Feel free to ask questions in the chat box. I'll get to them as they come up. Otherwise, of course, you can always email me with any questions that you have, and I'm happy to answer. So we're going to go ahead and get started. The first thing that I want to talk about is the Session C schedule. So as you probably noticed, we have 3 different schedules for this summer. And the Session C is the last 4 weeks of the summer term for the ECS program. This means that your official arrival day is on July 9th. That's the day that we expect you to get to Prague. If you decide to come a little bit early and you want to stay at the dorm, please let me know as soon as possible. Space is really limited this summer because of different reconstructions happening at the dorm facilities across Prague. So we'll have to make a reservation for you if there's space available. But we do expect you to be in Prague by Monday. I'll go over the orientation schedule a little bit later, as well as some of the activities that may be available throughout the summer, and I'll explain that a little bit as well. Courses this summer will meet from Monday to Thursday after the orientation week, starting on July 16th. And then your official departure day is August 4th. In terms of course registration, registration begins at 4 o'clock Prague time, which is 10 a.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. in Hong Kong, Singapore, and that's on May 24th. Registration for courses is on the ECES website, and this I will go through in a couple of minutes if you haven't already seen the website. Registration in our courses is on a first-come, first-served basis. There's limited places in each class because we maintain really strict standards for our courses to have small class sizes to provide the best possible academic experience for you. This means that there's typically around 16 students per course. This could vary slightly from course to course depending on the nature of the course, but for the most part, that's what you can expect. And so this means that if you go to register for courses and one of the courses that you'd like to take is already full, you can still register for it. You'll be placed on an automatic wait list. So when you click register, instead of being added to the course list, you'll be added to the wait list. And then if space becomes available in the course, you'll automatically be moved off the wait list into the class. And that can happen anytime until the end of the add drop period. So in terms of our website, I'll bring it up so that I can show you what you're looking at on the website and how to get to all of the most important information. So when you're on the website, you should click log in, whether or not you've already created a password. If you've already created your username and password, then you can log in here. Otherwise, you'll register as a new user. To register, I created a sample account so that we can see so you'll register after entering your name and your date of birth. Ooh. And if you get a message like this, let me know because I will look into the back end and find out what's going on exactly. For now, because I seem to have written down the incorrect username and password, I will just show you from, well, yeah, I'll just show you from my end what the course list looks like. So when you get to your profile, yours will look a little bit different because you'll have your student information. But in order to see courses in the course registration, you'll click courses here on the left side of the screen. And then yours will automatically be selected, but you can pick Summer Session C from the top, and this will show you all of the courses that are available for this summer. Once registration begins, you will see this kind of register button here. Right now, it'll just be a line, so you won't actually see this button until registration starts. And that's how you'll register for classes. So for right now, you can go through and see all of the course information, the syllabi for each class. So for example, if you click on the course title, you'll see some of the information, including the course schedule. If you click on the section title, then you will see the course syllabus here, which is a PDF, so in case you need to get courses approved for equivalencies or to count towards your degree program, you'll be able to send this to your academic advisor. You'll also see any course ratings here once they're uploaded, so this is a really good source of information for you that's really useful. In terms of getting courses approved, it's really important that you get a couple of more courses approved than you actually plan to take, and that's because if a course does fill up and you're not able to get off the wait list, this way you have some other courses pre-approved as backups. If you haven't already started doing that, I recommend that you do it as soon as possible. All of the courses that will be offered are now on the ECES website, so it's important that you take care of that as soon as you can. So in terms of the orientation schedule, once you arrive in Prague on Monday, July 9th, you'll be provided with transportation from the dorm to the airport as long as you submit your arrival details form by May 31st. This is linked to in the pre-departure guide that I sent you via email and is also on the ECES website under semester information. So when you're on the ECES website, if you scroll down, you'll see over here a link to semester information. I don't have on my profile, but you will. It's really important that you submit that arrival details form. We'll send out another reminder for you in the next week or two so that you remember to submit it once you've booked your flights. And that's if you are arriving on July 9th and you want transportation from anywhere in Prague, actually. So if you're arriving by bus or train, we can provide transportation from there as well. In terms of the checking into the dorm process, we'll be at the dorm waiting for you with your housing package when you arrive. It's good to know that sheets and towels are provided for you at the dorm, so you don't need to pack that kind of stuff. It's already included. And I'll also recommend that you don't overpack toiletries. A lot of students tend to do this, and it's one of those things that we've learned from experience isn't really necessary. Of course, we can point you in the direction of shops and grocery stores and bigger stores, convenience stores, and all sorts of things where you can buy your shampoo, your soap, your whatever it is. So don't worry about having to cram all of that into your suitcase. Save the space for something else. And also make sure you leave some empty space because I'm sure that you'll buy some things so that way when you come back, you'll have some space in your suitcase. In terms of your housing, the housing at Kamenskeho is suite style housing. So once you arrive in Prague, you'll receive your room assignments. Unfortunately, we can't give you those before you arrive, and that's mostly because we don't even have them until shortly before your arrival. The dorm assigns the housing themselves once we have your preferences. If you haven't already submitted your housing application form, please send that to Christina or myself as soon as possible. It's important that we get that by May 1st so that way we can pass that information along to the dorm so they can assign your housing. In the dorm, you also have access to a kitchen with cooking supplies. Within your suite, you have a bathroom and a small kitchenette that's just for the students in the suite. So you have a couple of different options there. Breakfast is provided for you Monday through Friday. You don't have any national holidays during your program, so you don't need to worry about that. It's good to know as well that you have Wi-Fi available throughout the dorm, and also to get into the dorm, you have secure gated entry. So in terms of where the dorm is located, this is a map of Prague, Greater Prague, so it's really the whole city. And you can see all of the starred points are points that are relevant for you as Charles University students, and you can see they're very well located right in the center of the city. So if we zoom in on the map here, you'll see over here this Parlejova 6, that's your dorm address. So this is where your dorm is located. Hoželec is the nearest tram stop to the dorm that most of the students use. And this tram ride between here and Malostranska, which is the closest tram station to the university main building, takes about 10 minutes. Your classes will largely be held over here near this Palladium marker, and that will take a little bit longer, but not too much. So in total, you're looking at about 20 to a half an hour minutes commute from the dorm to your classes. So everything is super centrally located. This area here is the castle, Prague Castle, Harčanské náměstí. So you're right in the most historic part of the city, one of the most beautiful parts of the city. So I'm sure that you will really enjoy living up there on the hill. So in terms of ECES orientation, like I mentioned, on Monday, July 9th, you'll arrive, you'll check in the dorm. In the evening, you'll have a meet and greet so that you can meet the other students that are participating in session C. On July 10th, you will have a housing orientation briefly. You'll have a chance to get your Charles University student ID cards. You'll have a welcome meeting and the first half of your survival check seminar. The survival check seminar is meant to introduce you to both the language and the culture here in the Czech Republic. So this is a mandatory part of the program, but it's one that all of the students always find really useful to help get you settled in Prague. On Wednesday, you will have the second half of your seminar, or you'll participate in the ECES day trip, and on Thursday, you'll do the opposite. So if you had check on Wednesday, you'll go on the day trip on Thursday, or vice versa. If you went on the day trip on Wednesday, you'll have your survival check on Thursday. Throughout the weekend, that weekend we'll have optional orientation activities, and then all of the subsequent weekends we'll also have some different optional trips and activities that you can choose from. What I've listed here is a sample of things that may be available, but we're still working on the final list. That will be posted on the ECS website under activities after you've logged in, so you'll be able to register for those before you get to Prague, much the same way that you register for courses, so that will be an option for you. So you can look right now on the ECS website on the general page. If you go to the top under student life and then trips and activities, if you look on this page of our website, you'll see loads of different past activities that we've had available, even some from last summer that are listed here just to give you an indication of what might be an option for you. But keep in mind that those will be available. So, preparing for Prague, this is my last little tidbit of information. Basically, the most important piece of advice that I can give you is to do some research about Prague, the Czech Republic, the history of the country, and even the current political situation. This is something that our teachers and other staff members always say is the most valuable thing for students before they get to Prague, because the history, of course, and the politics of past and present really affect the culture of the country. So if you have some background knowledge in this area, it'll give you a really good foundation to immersing yourself better and settling better once you arrive. We have some resources for you in the pre-departure guide that you can go through regarding the history, politics, culture of the Czech Republic. So I encourage you to really go through that pre-departure guide carefully to see what resources are available. And then the next piece of advice that I can offer for you, which was the most useful for me as a non-Czech moving to Prague for the first time, is for you to start learning some Czech language. So you can download the apps Memrise or Duolingo. Duolingo doesn't have Czech on their app version yet, but they do have it on the mobile desktop version, which can work on either your phone or your computer. So check those out. They're free resources that you can start learning a little bit of the Czech language. We appreciate that you're not going to be fluent in the language in 4 weeks, of course. It wouldn't even take 4 years for you to become completely fluent, but if you learn the pronunciation of the words before you come, how the different accents change the sounds of the letters, that will be the best, because then, for instance, when somebody tells you to meet them at the Nadvorny Třída tram stop, you know exactly what that looks like on the map. So it'll give you a really good foundation for getting settled in Prague much more quickly. And then in terms of Czech culture, these are just some bits that students in the past have mentioned are really key differences between their home country and the Czech Republic local culture. The first is customer service. So this has to do with the fact that the Czech Republic isn't a very service-oriented culture, and it means that when you're, for example, in a restaurant, you won't have the wait staff coming over to you every, 10 or 15 minutes asking, do you need anything, asking how the food is. That's not really how they see their job. Their job is to bring you food and then bring you the bill, and that's really the end of it. So it's important that you sort of make your expectations align with this different approach to the service industry. And with that, of course, tipping follows. So tipping here isn't as common, and it's not as common as, example, in the U.S., where you're expected to tip quite a lot. So we'll go over this also during the orientation once you get to Prague, but just something to keep in the back of your mind that this is probably the very first thing that you'll notice when you get to Prague in terms of cultural differences. The second thing is openness to strangers. So this really manifests in two main ways that will likely affect you. The first is for example, when you're walking down the street, you may be used to smiling at people or even saying hi if you catch somebody's eye contact while you're passing them. But this is just not common here in the Czech Republic. So just be aware that Czechs typically tend to find that behavior a little strange. They usually say that Americans are too friendly, they're too open, and they find it weird and sort of uncomfortable. So you may notice that people are a bit standoffish when you first meet them in Prague. And this can also make it a little bit more challenging to meet Czech friends. So you have to keep in mind that once you make contact with local people and you're spending time with them, it may take a couple of meetings for them to really consider you a friend and somebody that they're wanting to spend time with. It's not an immediate thing like it is in a lot of other cultures. So just be really aware of that. And then the last thing is, with your program, you're provided with a public transportation pass. So this is available to you throughout the stay. You'll get it when you arrive. And this allows you access to the entire public transportation network in Prague. Czech people don't tend to take taxis or Uber anywhere. It's not very common for them to do that. They find it to be quite expensive and really unnecessary. The Prague transportation system is known to be one of the most effective transportation systems in Europe. It's really inexpensive for local people. And it's really useful. They run actually 24 hours a day. So there's metros running throughout the day and evening, and then overnight trams run and buses. There's night trams and night buses. So you'll basically be able to get anywhere in Prague that you need to get through the public transportation system. So we really recommend that you use these services rather than taxis or Uber. Technically, Uber is illegal in the Czech Republic, so we cannot recommend that you use it at all, even though it does exist. There are other taxi apps that we will recommend once you get here. But for your first couple of days, it's also really good to know that you shouldn't be hailing taxis on the street. These taxis tend to overcharge tourists or foreigners. They're not always the most transparent in terms of their pricing and how they do that. So we'll recommend some other solutions for you when you get here. And lastly, in terms of practical considerations, please, please, please call your credit card company and your bank to let them know that you'll be traveling. A lot of credit card companies and banks will see transactions in Europe as potentially fraudulent if you haven't warned them in advance that you'll be making purchases abroad. And that's because it's not normal for your account activity to be making purchases abroad. And when they see this potentially fraudulent activity, they may freeze your card or block it completely, which may end up making you have to get a brand new card, which can take a lot of time and is quite a big hassle. So please make sure that you do this. Also, if you plan to travel anywhere else in Europe while you're studying in the Czech Republic, please also inform them that you'll be in those countries so that they can make a note on your account not to block your card if they see any transactions in those countries. Another note that I just mentioned is the current exchange rate. Right now it's about $1 to 20 Czech crowns. I mentioned this not because it really means anything to you right now, but mostly because you'll notice when you first get to Prague that a lot of things you buy at home will seem much cheaper here than they do at home. For example, when you go out for meals at restaurants, that will seem a lot more expensive. Groceries and a lot of other things that you may buy on a day-to-day basis. And so it's really easy for you to overspend very quickly if things seem really inexpensive, right? So even if you have a budget, you go to a restaurant and you say, wow, this meal is so cheap, I'm going to spend the equivalent of, 500-600 crowns on a dinner. That's fine. At home, you may be used to doing that, but if you do it all the time here because it seems really inexpensive, it adds up very quickly. So it's really important that you budget while you're here, you maintain your budget, and you don't get carried away because the prices seem really low, because it will catch up to you very quickly. My next piece of advice is to remember your European style adapters for your electronics. If you have UK or US adapters, these won't fit into the sockets here, so you'll need the European ones. You can buy them on Amazon or any other big box retailer. They're really inexpensive, so I recommend that you get a couple of them. They're very small, so you can just put them in your bag or whatever, because they're easy to lose as well. And these only adapt the shape of the plug. They don't convert the voltage. So for a voltage converter, you probably won't need one. Your computer, camera, phone, these sorts of electronics should automatically convert the voltage. The only types of things that students typically have which don't are heat producing appliances. So these are things like hair dryers, hair straighteners, curling irons, whatever. And I would say to be really careful bringing these items. If you absolutely need them, you can't leave them at home. It may be worth buying one here, maybe even sharing with another student. We have an ECES Facebook group, which I've emailed you about. It's also in the pre-departure guide, so you can find it there, the link to it. So you can go on the ECES group and see if anybody wants to share with you. The thing is with heat-producing appliances that even with voltage converters, they can still overheat, and this can be a really big fire hazard. So it's just really important that you try not to use them, and if you do need to use them, get local ones so that you don't have to worry about voltage issues. And also, if you are planning on traveling to the UK at all while you're studying in the Czech Republic, London or Ireland, then you should remember to get a UK adapter as well. And the last thing that I'll mention is that you want to get an ECEC card, or you may want to get an ECEC card. Most Charles University students have them. This is an international student identity card, and it provides you access to student discounts which are unique to ECEC all over Europe. So if you're planning on traveling outside of the Czech Republic while you're here, you probably will want to look into this because you will have a Charles University ID card which will give you access to some discounts, but the ECEC card will go even a bit further and will give you access to even more discounts. The website, which you can see here, ECEC.org, will actually list all of the places and types of discounts that you can get. So before you buy the card, you may want to go on and see if it's worth actually investing in it, whether you'll use those services or not. All right, so I know that was a lot of information. And I don't see any questions coming through the chat box. If you have any, I'll stay on for a minute after the recording ends. Otherwise, I'll be sending out the recording to all of the Session C students. Please feel free to write back with any questions that you might have. We're happy to answer those for you. And in any case, feel free to email me. We'll be in touch with some reminders before you come to Prague. But thank you for attending. I hope that this was useful for you, and I'll see you in Prague in July.